A California gang member has been moved to the FBI's top 10 most wanted list for his suspected involvement in the murder of a Los Angeles man and fleeing from prosecution. The FBI considers him armed and dangerous. 27-year-old fugitive Omar Alexander Cardenas of Los Angeles is wanted by the Federal Bureau of Investigations for his alleged involvement in the murder of 46-year-old Jabali Dumas back in 2019. Dumas had been standing outside a Silmar, Los Angeles shopping center in front of the hair icon barber, where he was allegedly gunned down and killed by Cardenas. The U.S. District Court issued a federal arrest warrant back in 2020, but Los Angeles Police Chief Michael Moore said on Wednesday that the suspect's whereabouts is unknown at this point. The trail has gone cold. Our efforts with the family and associates have not produced positive results, and we are worried that he has relatives in Mexico that he could have fled to, which makes this an international case. According to the FBI, Cardenas is a member of the Pierce Street Gang and may have associations with the Pacoima Van Nuys Boys, Anybody Killers. Cardenas goes by the nickname Dollar and is approximately 5 feet 6 inches tall and between 240 to 300 pounds. He has prescription glasses, dark hair, a beard, and brown eyes. Authorities have cautioned the public, stating that Cardenas is armed and dangerous. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $100,000 for any information that leads directly to the arrest of Cardenas, and is asked to call the FBI's tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit online tips to tips.fbi.gov. This year, the governor plans to send middle-class families up to $1,050 in inflation, but his marketing of such a program may be misleading.
Governor Newsom took to Twitter recently to announce his plan to send middle-class families up to $1,050 this year. He markets it as inflation relief, but this move was required by law. California law requires some surplus tax money to be returned to residents when the surplus reaches a certain limit. The limit, also known as the GAN limit, is a constitutional spending cap approved by voters in 1979. The limit is aimed to keep state and local spending from increasing drastically. If the state's revenues exceed the limit for 2 years, lawmakers must spend that extra money in certain ways. This includes returning money to taxpayers and spending more on education. Carolyn Kavesh of the Orange County Taxpayers Association said that it's not a bad thing that he is giving some of the money back. This is his way of avoiding the GAN spending limit. Former Senator John Moorlach of Orange County told the Epoch Times Newsom's idea to reframe the tax debate was creative but false. Moorlach said, "What he is saying is, hey, this is an inflation rebate, which is so creative, but it is also false." Moorlach added, "Governor Newsom technically has to rebate the money. It isn't like he's doing it because he's Santa Claus." Couples who made more than $500,000 and single taxpayers who earned more than $250,000 are not qualified to receive money.
Governor Newsom took a trip to Washington, D.C. recently to accept an education award. While there, he discussed progressive policies in addition to policies in California.
On his recent trip to Washington, D.C., Governor Gavin Newsom discussed progressive policy with officials in Joe Biden's administration as well as other lawmakers. The objective was to discuss how the state could aid in supporting the Democratic Party's political strategies. Newsom and Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy talked about California's copious gun control laws. Newsom attributes the laws to California's leadership in reducing gun violence. According to FBI statistics, California has the highest quantity of gun-related murders in the country. Before leaving the capital, Newsom signed into law new gun control packages. The law would allow Californians to sue gun manufacturers. The governor also met with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren to discuss how California can help senators expand abortion services. Newsom responded to the overturning of Roe v. Wade by adding the ability to have an abortion into California's constitution. Following Newsom's trip, speculation circled whether the governor would throw in a bid to run for the presidency in 2024. Newsom denied the claims.
Huntington Beach voted in favor of putting a cannabis tax measure on the ballot for coming November election. The measure is expected to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for the city, but not everyone is on board.
The City Council of Huntington Beach voted 5-2 on July 19th to finalize a cannabis tax ballot measure for the November general election. Though Proposition 64 legalized retail cannabis in the state in 2016, many cities in Orange County ban it, including Huntington Beach. Mike Posey and Councilman Eric Peterson cast the dissenting votes against a tax on cannabis sales. The new measure resembles a similar previous measure that failed to get the 2/3 approval it needed to pass. The measure would generate an expected $300,000 to $600,000 annually. The estimated cost for the city to add these two ballot measures is $25,000.
For millennia, migratory monarch butterflies have transformed North American woodlands into kaleidoscopes of color during mass migrations. But now, international conservationists say they are threatened with extinction.
Every autumn, migratory monarchs fly thousands of miles from breeding grounds in the eastern U.S. and Canada to spend the winter closely huddled in fir trees in Mexico and California. Numbering in the millions in the 1990s, the butterfly's population has since shrunk by more than 85%. On Wednesday, the monarchs were placed on the endangered category of the International Union for the Conservation of Nature's Red List of Threatened Species.
What's happening to monarchs is like death by 1,000 cuts. We know that over the past 30 years, monarch numbers have been declining at first really precipitously for about the first 15 years, and then slower and with a lot of annual variation from year to year.
Logging has destroyed much of the insects' winter grounds. Agricultural pesticides have decimated the milkweed plants that their larvae feed on.
But as farmers changed their weed control methods, that milkweed disappeared. And because much of the breeding range of monarchs is used for farming, a lot of that habitat is just gone now. Those corn and soybean fields that used to have milkweed growing in them.
Oberhauser added that the butterfly's numbers are closely tied to changes in weather.
As we're seeing with all of the extreme weather events going on this year, there's also a change in the climate. And we know that monarch numbers are really tied to variation in year-to-year weather, and that the conditions that are best for monarchs are becoming more rare.
In all, the IUCN says more than 41,000 species are now at risk of going extinct. Wednesday's endangered species list includes all remaining species of sturgeon, following centuries of overfishing for their meat and caviar. Of the 26 sturgeon species, 17 are now considered critically endangered. The Red List update did provide some glimmers of hope. Tiger numbers increased 40% since the last assessment in 2015, due to improvements in monitoring with over 5,500 in the wild. However, some biologists have taken issue with how numbers are counted, saying such growth is misleading.
While we usually think of flowers being pleasantly fragrant, that's not the case with this one unique tropical plant. And that very special bloom is often known as the corpse flower. I spoke to a greenhouse expert on the first of these flowers, set to release its special scent into Silicon Valley. Lars Rosengreen, a greenhouse manager at San Jose State University, pays special attention to all of his plants. But he's paid particular attention to one very special species, known as Titan arum. Colloquially, is the corpse flower.
I'm very excited to see it open. It should be really quite a show because it's big. It's crazy.
It's really exciting that it's blooming here at SJSU. All the students who work up in the greenhouses are really excited because it's kind of a culmination of all of their hard work, all the time we spend up here watering, repotting, and so it feels really great to be able to contribute this to the university.
The plant has been growing at the school's biology department's greenhouse for 9 years now and is expected to bloom for the first time in the coming days. And what will follow is the smell of a dead animal. That's according to Rosengreen, who says it will be a first in Silicon Valley.
It attracts pollinators because the animals that pollinate this are carrion beetles. So carrion beetles are beetles that lay their eggs on dead animals. And so This plant is basically tricking those beetles into thinking this is a large dead animal.
Usually in the wild, if it becomes pollinated, a cherry-like fruit will develop down here, usually eaten by the hornbill bird.
But if it's not pollinated, the whole thing kind of deflates. So this whole structure here, it's just held up by water.
The school bought it as a seedling from a nursery in the North Bay and have tended to it ever since. They affectionately named it Terry Titan, based on its more official name, Titan arum. They water it 3 times a week while maintaining a humid and warm environment above 65 degrees.
Terry Titan stands about 6 feet tall. Now, the greenhouse manager told us he started measuring it recently. Now, based on this measuring stick, you can see exactly how fast it grew in the last 2 weeks.
This plant weighed over 100 pounds, and the middle piece can get as warm as one's body temperature. According to the United States Botanic Garden, it's an endangered plant with an estimation of less than 1,000 remaining in the wild due to habitat loss.
I've seen a few of these bloom before, and it is quite the event because the smell it takes over the entire area. I will definitely be coming back. However, I know I'm gonna have to plug my nose or something because it gets really bad.
Once bloomed, it is the largest unbranched cluster of plants in the plant kingdom. It can grow up to around 10 feet tall. Terry Titan is expected to bloom late in the evening or early in the morning and can be watched on the SJSU Greenhouse Facility live stream. David Lamb, NTD News, California.